Yo, what's cracking, folks? Welcome to episode number 3 of the Painter and the Pixie. I'm Jeremy Vassar,
And I'm Serena Vassar.
and in this episode of the podcast, Serena and I are going to be chatting about injuries and recovery and some different modalities I've happened upon in my journey of getting banged up, as well as Serena's.
Yeah, we'll go over some tips on how to help support yourself, pre-injury, post-injury, some nutritional things you can do to help recovery to speed along.
Right. So that's kind of what we're focused on in this episode. Hopefully, you guys find some good actionable intelligence in the show, and we covered quite a bit. So, I think that's enough of a lead up. So let's do it. All right.
This is only the beginning.
All right, ready?
Ready?
What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Well, I don't believe it.
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
Yo, what's up, girl?
Hi, good morning.
How you doing?
Good.
How's your weekend going so far?
So far, so good. Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting day yesterday, but, it's good.
Cool.
Drinking some coffee.
Yeah, man. And I'm feeling better than I did last week as far as that whole
Yeah,
situation.
the real question is, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I was a lot of times on Saturday I don't end up eating a lot, which
Well, you're doing a lot.
I'm doing a lot of stuff. So, but I did better yesterday as far as forcing myself to have adequate calories to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
But I had a fun experience last night.
Yeah, yours is cool.
So I went to the USKAs, which is kickboxing, and down in the 2300 arena in Philly, and saw some of my buddies fight, which was sweet. And I brought my camera and so forth, and actually got pretty awesome footage of my buddy John fighting and beating the crap out of the dude that he fought, which was great. I mean, he TKO'd him with knees, which
Wow.
is pretty awesome.
Yeah, you came home late last night, and I was barely awake, and you're telling me, I don't remember any of that. I don't know if you told me that.
Yeah, it's all right. You're not that lucid when it's late. But you texted me first. That's why I came in and said
I
hello.
did.
But,
I didn't know you were home.
But yeah, so that was fun, and I got I'm probably have me and my cousin are going to work on some stuff today for him.
Yeah, cool.
But it was sweet. So it's all, and it was funny as like I was trying to film it and be steady, and then I was so pumped that John was winning that I was like trying not to like shake the camera, not scream into the mic. But I would have given like my left testicle for a monopod yesterday, because like I probably filmed like 6 or 7 fights, and they were 3 2-minute rounds. So I'd kind of get a break in between.
Just like holding your hands up there the whole time.
Well, and I had to I'm manually focusing it too.
Wow.
So it's a lot of like steady stuff. And thankfully I have very strong arms and shoulders from painting and all the other stuff I do. But I was like, how does it work out? But yeah, it would be sweet to just have a monopod that you can kind of just have on there. That's not quite as cumbersome as a tripod.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the night, I had been filming off and on for the people that I knew, and then I filmed the main event is actually a girl I used to train with down in King of Prussia, and she was the main event. It was a pro MMA or a pro Muay Thai fight, which means kickboxing rules, the USKA kickboxing rules and the Muay Thai rules are a little bit different.
Okay.
So this was a pro Muay Thai fight, which means there was no shin pads.
Ooh.
The gloves may have been smaller, but the big thing is there's no headgear, which is actually, I prefer that. So it was, and you can elbow. So it was, and they have like more relaxed clinch rules and stuff, which is sweet. But so that was a good fight. Lisa won. And then I was filming, and the guy who kind of ran the whole thing, he's from MMA News. He pointed at me. He's like, "Yo, are you filming for Lisa?" And I was like, "Oh crap!" Like, because I don't have any press credentials or anything. I'm just some dude.
I'm gonna get kicked out.
I'm like, I'd been filming all night. I didn't know if they had professional camera guys there, like ringside filming the actual, because they had like big screens up. So
people can see.
you could see, yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, and then he's like, yeah, come in the ring. I was like, all right. So,
Wow.
but I was able to go in the ring, and I filmed the post-fight interview.
That's so
And when
cool.
they announced that she was the winner, so
That's
because
awesome.
she won by I think it was unanimous decision, which is like she didn't knock her out, but it was a pretty dominant performance. So that was pretty interesting and pretty cool. I was like in the ring. I was really hoping my buddy, I went with Nate, and I was like, man, he's like, dude, I realized I should have taken a picture of you when you were in there. And he's like, oh, yeah, just forgot. So
no.
I'm like, that's all right.
You'll have another chance probably.
Yeah, no, it was cool though.
Sometime, maybe.
So I thought that was pretty fascinating and just kind of a cool experience. But
Yeah.
and I was more pumped that John won. So that was a big
Very
deal.
cool.
Very dominant performance by my buddy.
Knocked him out with the knee.
Yeah, shout out to John Naj. It was, I mean, he crumpled him like 3 times, so it's pretty
That's
good.
a lot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a lot of those people that fought last night are not going to feel super awesome today.
Yeah,
So.
but probably so.
But yeah, so that was my night last night, and I think I was thinking about it because we've got my transferring into the challenge that we're still participating in.
Yeah.
I might end up putting that up on my YouTube and have it be one of my YouTube videos. And I was thinking I might put that smoothie video up too.
Okay, yeah,
with
that
the notes
counts.
on YouTube, which I feel like that would count.
Totally counts.
For like, I'll put
Yeah.
it in the random playlist.
You did a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
Video.
So I feel like I'm not like cheating the system or anything.
Not at all.
And if we incorporate the notes that you did on the Instagram post,
Yeah,
I
like
feel
the
like
smoothie recipe.
right. I feel like that would be useful for folks, and it's a nice place to find it more easily than scrolling through my Instagram or whatever.
True. Very true.
So and
Well,
then,
that's so fun.
yeah. So interesting experience, but you'd be surprised. You called me the other day. I thought it was hilarious. Like I'm starting to look like the king of the hipsters.
Yeah,
That's what you.
say that. Well, especially yesterday, you had your beanie and your black thing with the zips, the cool funky zippers.
Yeah. No, I was like, what would
Your
a
beard was getting more beardly.
what would a cinematographer kind of like look like? Those kind of like I was like, yeah. No, so we're like just nice jeans, really nice shoes, like a nice button down, and then I had like my beanie and my
and like you're super snobby about coffee.
my beard nicely coiffed. And it was hilarious is when I got there, the guys filming the one dude had this monster beard and a sweet beanie on. I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I knew it.
You got it. You called it.
But yeah, so it was fun, and I think I'll have probably some more opportunities like
Very
that
cool.
coming my way. But it was just I'm happy to. It helped me like anything that exposes me to something that's live that I have to film, and then like you're just upping your skills because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, please don't screw this up. So
Yeah.
but so it's all good. But anyway, saying that about the YouTube, and then we've been weighing in. I'm down 10 or 11 pounds
Yeah.
now. So since the beginning of our challenge.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So-
Today's the 21st, so
Okay.
3 weeks today.
Yeah, nice
3
job,
weeks.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
crushing
it's
it.
pretty good.
So how you feeling?
I feel good. I feel really good. The first couple of weeks were kind of rough, but I feel like that's for anybody. You're going through major detox from all this junk that you were eating and that we were eating, and then like the end of week 2, you're like, I feel pretty good. And then you have really good energy and mental clarity. And like, I've had so much more cognitive capacity. Like I have pretty good cognitive capacity to begin with.
Right,
But like
right.
you can do more and engage with information more. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about all that. That's some part of that is like why you drink sometimes. You're like, let's just quiet that down for a minute.
Well,
Turn the volume down.
It's annoying. I would say you and I are somewhat intense individuals.
A bit.
So
A little bit. Sometimes. Here and there.
and I think being an intense individual, like I even get tired of my own brain, where it's like, man, you're annoying. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's been good. And I got to yoga yesterday for the first time all week. I was like,
yeah, because you didn't go Friday.
I didn't
Yeah.
go Friday. Didn't go Wednesday. I didn't go Thursday. I didn't go any of the other days, which is kind of unfortunate when we're trying to do basically 3 a week and you only do your first one on Saturday. And
Right.
Like, we're recording right now, so I can't go to the class right now.
And you're not going tonight, right?
And I'm not going tonight. I'm hanging out with my friend Lauren. Shout out to Lauren.
Yeah.
Whenever you listen to this or watch this. So I won't be going to 4:30 class today.
Yeah, I'm going.
So I
Sucker.
know. And then
And Jeremy pulls into the lead.
just by one. Your first one was Friday.
Yeah, well, because a lot of times I went multiple times during the weekend,
Yeah.
and then Monday I just wanted to go do strength and conditioning, so that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Tuesday, I'm still getting my jujitsu muscles back from rolling live. So I rolled live with
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
some big
remember that.
fellas and like really, I would say, strained my upper back. Like my T-spine, like right
Mm. Yeah.
between my shoulder blades and like kind of my neck just from getting triangled and my head ripped on and stuff. it wasn't anything specific, but then the next day I was just like, oh, that's rough.
Spend some time massaging that with some CBD.
Yeah.
Work on that a
So
little bit.
now it's, so I skipped yoga on Wednesday, which was a good move.
Yeah.
And then just kind of chilled, took an Epsom salt bath, and, now I'll be able to get back at it. But thankfully,
And it's 12 in a month. It's not 3 a week. So we do have that flexibility.
and we have some tail over because I think into January, January 31st is like a Wednesday. So we can kind of make it up on that. But
yeah, I've got my schedule for this week. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to get to 4 this coming week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That's my goal right now.
See how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll try to get there. And then if I can get to those 4, then I'm just good. I'm good. I just have 1 more left for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're at 7 right now. I'm at 7 right now. Yeah, you are too. Today you'll get to 8.
Yep.
And you'll proceed into the lead ahead of me. But yoga was great yesterday. I felt really good afterwards.
You went to the intermediate class?
I went to the intermediate class. It was my second time at the intermediate class. And it was a lot of fun. I did way better this time than I did the first time. And I thought, I wonder if that is because I hadn't done multiple yogas before. Because what had happened last week was I did Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday intermediate class.
Right.
And I was kind of like I was a little more wobbly. I don't know, not terrible, but a little more wobbly. But this time I felt like I could stick some things more, could get more into starting with dancer and starting with these other ones that you kind of like lift your foot up above your head from behind. And I felt like I was a lot more stable. They always tell me, lock your knee, lock your knee, lock your knee.
Yeah.
Because I have a little bit of a stress with that point. And I felt like I could do that a lot more easily this week. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like for me, that was a good confirmation that I shouldn't batch them all so close together.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Give
that.
myself a little bit more space.
Yeah.
Especially because my right knee is giving me issues. It's just like having so many problems, and I don't really understand why it's having problems, but something is coming out from history.
Yeah, some incongruities in the old body. Yeah, I feel you. Well, that's our topic of the day.
Transition to our topic.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about injuries, how you can get them, which is a myriad of ways.
Yeah, those are the fun stories. Fun now.
Yeah,
not
fun now.
Then.
And as you say, not usually funny, haha. But yeah, what do you say? Funny, interesting, not funny, haha.
Funny, interesting, not funny, haha.
And we're also going to talk about recovery and then also prevention. So,
Yes.
and it's something that I've definitely had quite a bit of experience with. I'm by no means an expert, but I can definitely direct some people in maybe some more beneficial directions.
Yeah.
So, who wants to lead off?
So I'll go about my knee here real quick,
Sure.
since we were just talking about
Fire it
that.
up.
So I had an injury in my right ankle. It's my right knee that's giving me problems. And what has happened is recently at yoga, it just pinches. It's like if you pull a rubber band too tight and you can feel that tension at all. Not that it snaps. I haven't torn anything. I haven't ripped anything.
Yeah.
But you're just like, ooh, this is not a good sensation. I don't know this is new to me. This is not, left knee is totally fine. And I think now, I was thinking on it for a while, I think it is because I really, really messed up my right ankle
Did you roll it doing something?
when I was 14. So I used to figure skate and ballet and all kinds of really fun stuff. And like, I did not do anything wrong, like doing cool things. I was literally babysitting, playing hide and go seek. And I tripped on a rock outside and rolled my ankle. So like your ankle is supposed to be up and down, right? Like this, north to south. And it just folded right over.
Oh.
So it's like, here's your ankle and you have flexion this way, and it just folded over like this. So it was just like, oh, not good. Really, really bad. And I couldn't walk on it for a long time. I did PT and everything. And I like stretched all the ligaments. So since then, however many years ago that was, I have realized only recently that I have compensated a little bit more than I thought I had compensated.
Right.
So a lot of my physical activities that I've done in the past, like ballet and yoga, you have a lot of turnout in your hips, and you can kind of compensate for some of that. Your ankle does not need to be straight on. You can kind of sickle or turn it, not quite sickle it, not really that, but you can turn it out a little bit more, and you don't have to have it straight.
Right.
So now with this particular type of yoga, Bikram, you're very straightforward. Everything's parallel. Everything is back and forth, not side to side, or it's just straight lines. You don't have any really turnout. That's the best way I know how to describe that. And I've realized that I suck at not turnout. I like can do stuff where you turn your hips out really well because that has always been my history.
Yeah.
And this stuff is way worse. So anyway, that's where I've realized I had some compensation instead of standing. And when you are doing Bikram and you're doing anything on a single leg where your other leg is up in the air, lifted in some way, you basically have to press down into your big toe. You want to root down and keep things very straight, engage your quad above your knee and lock your leg out. I realized that I roll to the edge of my foot, my pinky edge of my foot, and lock down my other toes, but my big toe sort of like doesn't really have a lot of tension to it.
Right.
And then it torques your knee, and then you can't lock your knee, and then it torques your hip, and then it goes all the way up and into your back.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, wow. So that's what I've been dealing with recently is trying to get this knee to relax a little bit more and not have so much pain in it.
It is interesting when you do something like yoga. It really does show the incongruities in your body and like where you're like, oh, I'm banged up here, I'm tight here. And for me, it's no mystery where like for you, I mean, that you'll start working on, there's a bunch of things to do to start kind of working that out to get some space back and slack in the line and kind of work that out. But we'll get into prevention and so forth.
Well, even in the last 2 weeks since I did that first intermediate class, I realized it during the intermediate class. For whatever reason, something clicked and I understood what was going on with my knee. Even since then, driving. I'm driving differently because, you use your right foot for a lot of the gas pedals and, for your control, and you kind of sickle and you turn and you bend and you twist it around. You don't keep it straight on. So now what I've been doing is very intentionally every time I drive, press down with my big toe to keep it more straightforward instead of on the side.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize that is what I had been doing. And I can feel it. I can feel the muscles engaging differently. I can feel my quad engaging differently than I have before. And I feel it like in my ass. Like, oh man, who knew that this is the muscle you use when you're driving?
Well, it's actually really bad posture. Driving's a terrible posture for folks. And because a lot of times your foot is turned out.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know, for people that are just listening, when it's not straight on, so like your toes are pointed, it's your right foot, your toes are
like
pointed,
a clock.
slightly to the right, but it opens up the hip in a weird way, and then you have to keep tension in your foot to control the pedals. And actually one of my favorite kind of books on injury recovery and prevention and stuff is by Kelly Starrett, which I have his bevy of books over here that are some of my favorites. And then for anyone that's this book's like my jam. So it's called Ready to Run by Kelly Starrett, and he's a PT doctor, and he's the founder of CrossFit SF in San Francisco, and it was like, I think it was the number 4 of the CrossFits total.
Wow.
And I started using his stuff when I was training for an ultra marathon because I had some lingering injuries that I knew I had to deal with if I wanted to compete in that ultra. And he's all about like so he's very focused on posture and a lot of things that we do that are terrible for us, particularly like how much people sit down at desks. He just came out with another book that I have over here called Desk Bound, which if you're having a lot of issues from sitting at your desks and neck issues and stuff, that's a great book as well. But so there's so many things I would highly like. So he's really famous for The Supple Leopard. You can hear him on like Joe Rogan. He's been on Tim Ferriss's podcast. But he's like an absolute stud because he's a CrossFit guy. Those dudes get injured all the time. So what it does is gives guys that are very good at PT a lot of opportunities to figure out people's issues and posture work in an accelerated fashion.
Okay.
So because they're pounding on their body so much that like any incongruities come out like immediately. So and his thing is like you kind of want your muscles loose and ready to go and like not have all these knots everywhere. So it's a lot of working knots out and doing a lot of soft tissue work and different stretches and using different mechanisms. I'll show you guys. Like I thought I'd bring out 2 of my favorites that I think are the most useful for the recovery piece. So
and I'll link some of that info in our show notes so you guys can see what we're talking about.
And,
I'll list the books and I'll list all that stuff.
And then if we get it up in time, we can maybe do our Amazon links. So so coming into the ultra, the reason I did it is because So I've had a gang of injuries. Well,
You've had way more than I have.
We will briefly discuss mine. So I injured my shoulder when I was 18, lifting like a moron. I was like deadlifting north of 400 pounds.
Wow.
And I had those stupid wrist straps on.
Oh, yeah, I remember
that,
this.
I couldn't drop the bar, and so it just it tore something in my right shoulder. So that's when I got to know Dr. Derek, who shout out.
You've known him for that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
known
think I
Derek for a
realized
long.
that.
It's been
That's
a
so
minute.
cool.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because I knew, but yeah, I found out through. It was shortly thereafter that I knew Derek, and then yeah. So anyway, that ripped up, and then through painting and stuff, that would exacerbate that. So I got to learn all about that, and then we went into fighting, and let's see. I haven't had that many injuries from Muay Thai. They've pretty much all been grappling related, so either wrestling
Which
or
is so surprising
jiu-jitsu.
to me. I would have imagined you'd have like concussions or something.
Oh well, I definitely have some brain damage,
From, like,
but that's not
Muay Thai.
gonna like affect me until way later. So. Well, Muay Thai, it's all like impact wounds, so you get
Yeah.
like big body bruises and stuff
That's
from getting
true.
shin kicked, or
But it's not like pulling your joints.
nah,
I see.
nah, or like black eyes and
Yeah, like you had a black eye for our wedding.
Well,
I
technically,
was so pissed. And
that
that was jujitsu.
That was from jiu-jitsu.
I was so pissed. I was like, come on. And I said to you, and I should never have said this, I
Yeah.
said, just don't get a black eye.
Yeah,
3 days before
Well,
our wedding.
Well, you guys
black eye.
jinx it. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
no.
do that. Yeah, it puts the thought
Just
in my
don't
mind.
roll with white belts 3 days before we
I
get
didn't.
married.
That was my buddy Pete. He's a very, very nice
Oh,
gentleman.
I thought you said he was a white belt
No.
and
He-
flailed. I thought you said that's what happened. Someone flailed and kicked you in the eye.
He may have been a white belt at the time.
Yeah.
That was many moons ago.
That was almost
But
4 years
Pete's
ago.
a purple belt now.
Wow,
He's
go Pete.
super legit.
Hopefully not kicking anybody in the eye.
He's a guy that triangled me this week and
Oh.
ripped up my shoulder a little bit.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's-
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Totally
yeah.
tangent.
Shout out to Pete. He's a good dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got a super deep voice too. My brother does. It's hilarious. It's super like, and he's huge too. He's got to be like 6'2", 6'3", and just very, very deep voice. Anyway, yeah. So black eye, that stuff's like all surface stuff. I don't
And
really
it
care about
heals
that.
fairly quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like you rip a joint.
Yeah, wrestling, I popped both AC joints going in on a shot, doing the exact thing they told us not to do.
Oh, dear.
And your AC joints are in your shoulders. That hurts a lot. And I got, early on in jiu-jitsu, I got Americana'd and got my elbow, like I was holding, and then my grip slipped, and he went right into the submission, and it just went pop. Like, it popped so loud, everyone heard it, and then I cursed really loud, as one
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
and then it hurt a lot, and I cried. It hurt a lot, and I it was my left elbow, and I was in a sling. So then when I painted, I had to be in a
Oh, no.
I had a sling, and then I would like kind of rest the edging container like in this hand, and it would just like rest in the slings.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a one-handed
Well, and you
painter.
couldn't open doors.
I
for a
could
long
not
time.
I could not turn a doorknob for
Yeah.
like, I don't, probably at least a month. Yeah. So that one, and
Jeez.
let's see, yeah, little bumps and scratches, and then I got, what really led to my back surgery was I got heel hooked again by
yeah.
a white belt, and then popped something in my right knee a little bit. It was probably like a slight meniscus tear or something, but then I kept lifting super heavy on it
Yeah.
in CrossFit, and then that started to tighten up
Well,
my...
you compensate just like with
Yeah,
my ankle. You
just-
start doing things a little bit off,
Yep.
almost even not even noticeable until it's too late.
Well, and then the more weight you put on it, the more like heavy lifting you do. So I was doing CrossFit on top of it. Everything was tightening up in my hip,
Yeah.
and like kind of everything was just ratcheting down. And then I think that compensation was slamming my spine
Yeah.
in a way that was like not, it was offset. So
Yeah.
then that squeezed out bone goo that then wrapped around my sciatic nerve.
Isn't that what he actually called it?
It's pretty much what it
Bongo?
is, yeah. Because, and a lot of times
Your
people
surgeon.
have those. It's a cyst. It's a ganglion cyst, and a lot of times they come out of your spine and they actually rest up against the spinal canal, like they rest up in there. But what this one did, it had enough behind it to like come out into the spinal canal and then wrap around a nerve.
Yeah, your sciatic nerve.
My sciatic nerve, and then that's what fired all of my muscles from like my lower back
Yeah.
through my right like butt cheek down all the way through my right leg.
Yeah.
So, and then talk
Miserable.
about like incongruities and like compensating.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's taken me a long time to get, a ton of like massages and different things and stuff to like try and get the muscles to chill out even after like, because they've got so much memory of clenching up from the nerve firing.
And like part of that I think is your brain too saying, don't do that, you might get this nerve fired again, you know. That's like your brain's trying to protect you, but you're like, come on, it's not there anymore, the cyst is gone.
Yeah. So did that, and then recovered, got into cycling. Cycling was fine. It's just super boring, and I just didn't really take to it.
Yeah, and you rode 40 miles. First time you did that, 40 miles the day you proposed to me.
I did. And it was brutal. It was like 45 degrees out and raining. And I was riding with my buddy Derek and a Scotsman named Phil. It's a nice fella. And then we rode all the way down River Road. I rode for like 40 miles, and then I proposed to you that afternoon. So
it's true.
Got me chill enough to do it because I was a little nervous. But and then, I was thinking of you when you were saying you rolled your ankle doing something silly, like just not
playing
your
hide
sport.
and go seek with the kid. I was babysitting.
I was down. I think we were at your NTA thing.
Oh yeah.
Down
when
in
I was a student.
DC, and we were staying at my friend Katie's parents' house, and I was hanging out with Katie when you were at class, and we went. And Katie runs like Ironmans, and she's a baller. So we went on a run. And I was running on road too. It wasn't even trail because the ultra marathon I ran was on trail, and we were running on the road. And I was just running, and then it always happens when you're not like paying attention as much. So then I stepped off and caught the edge of the road, and dude, I rolled my ankle like all the way over. And I was like, the ankle roll was so bad that a car that passed me turned around.
Yeah.
And then, and like, they're like, do you need a ride? I was like, nah, I'm fine. I'm fine. So then I like, and that was pretty close to we were only like a month out from the race. So
you were really close to
I was a
your
little bit
race.
of a bummer. But anyway, so I think
injuries.
that's, and then the most recent one is
the one we've talked about already.
Partial ACL tear in my left.
It's a
left
pretty
knee.
decent partial.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's like halfway gone.
Well, he didn't. They were unspecific as far as how much is left. So, but yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, lots of those injuries.
So those are injuries.
Yeah, and then I had a back injury. So really, I just have this right knee and a back injury. That's all I can remember anyway. Those are the only things that stand out in my head.
When you had a are you talking about the back injury from yoga?
Well, the back injury from yoga is because I had a back injury from when I fell down a flight of stairs years ago.
Right.
That was like my senior year of grad school and my final year of grad school, and I fell down a flight of stairs, and I just like slipped on wooden steps, socks, I don't know, somehow slipped right down all the way, all my spine. Like it was, so there was one spot in the middle of my spine. I wish I could remember which which vertebra it was. But anyway, I like hit it real hard, and it was bruised for a long time and pushed out of place, and it was doing all this weird stuff, and I did all kind of, and anyway, that's the same spot that got hurt when I did yoga. So last year when I was doing my really consistent yoga practice, I went to one of our like fun classes after class kind of a thing, or it was like an impromptu sort of, I wouldn't say that it's not like our intermediate class, but it was just like doing other stuff than regular Bikram. And we were doing wall walks where you stand up and you walk your hands all the way back down into
I can't do
a
that.
bridge. Yeah. Super fun. I really enjoy them. But then this is the problem with being a noodle. That's why I need I need a little bit more strength. I do have some strength, but not enough to compensate for how flexible I am.
Yeah.
Dropped down, and I couldn't get back up effectively, and it just like squashed one of my little discs partway out. Mm-hmm. Right underneath of that same vertebrae that has been injured. So that's like, it was just like fire all the way down, and I could not barely move. And it was like, I literally remember I got up the next day and I was hunched over. I was like leaning over at an angle, like an upside down L almost. And I could not straighten my spine for the life of me. I just could not stand up.
Yeah.
It was miserable. So that's what ended my consistency with yoga last year.
Right.
And then I had to do a whole bunch of stuff to recover from that. Now I do pretty good. There's little twinges here and there. I take it easier. I know what to do now. Not compensate, but just like be careful, be gentle with yourself, and
right.
Take it from there.
Yeah. Ugh.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say nerve pain. If anyone's not had like neck nerve pain or lower back nerve pain, it is extremely frustrating because you can't, like, if you had a compound fracture in your leg and your bone's sticking out, people understand that, like, holy crap, you're in a ton of pain.
Yeah.
But when I had my impingement, my nerve impingement in my lower back, I looked fine.
You looked normal.
I looked fine, and it was the worst pain I'd ever been in. All those other injuries, I would have taken them all at once comparative to the amount of pain that because it's like a sensory override, and nothing touches it. It's just, it would felt like someone digging a hot knife into my like lower spine,
on all the way down your leg
it was
too.
it was insane. Like I almost passed out a couple times, and I remember Dr. Derek was working on me because he was trying to like do this thing where you like floss the nerve, and I have a pretty high pain tolerance just from getting punched in the head and like
everything,
all the other stuff I've done. So and I literally jumped off the table and then was on the floor just like breathing, like kind of on like all fours, just like he's like, dude, you need to go get an MRI. So
yeah, not good. Yeah.
So
a lot of people have been getting injured recently too. That's where I also wanted to mention things like Megan.
Yes.
My really dear friend Megan was in a car accident.
And she did our logo. Shout out to Megan.
Yeah, Megan, the one who did our logo. She's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's so unfortunate. So today is the 21st, like we said.
Yeah.
And she was in this accident, I believe, on the 5th.
Okay.
On the 5th of January.
Not her fault, folks.
Not her
by the
fault.
way.
She was leaving my office. She was going on her merry way and got rear-ended. She's sitting in her, perfectly within range, right at a red light, waiting to cross an intersection. And this was when we had our big snow, our first snow and icy bit for January. And this chick just crashed into her. Just like didn't stop. Didn't see that there was ice behind Megan's car, and by the time she saw any of those things, it's just like too late, smash into the back of Megan. Now, thankfully, she wasn't going super, super fast because she did see there was a red light. She just didn't slow down in time.
Right.
And so she smashed into the back of Megan, rear-ended her, and Megan got whiplash. And she was like, kind of felt okay afterwards. And I'm like, you should just go get things checked out. Just go. It's not going to feel awesome. I mean, it's going to feel pretty good right now because you've got adrenaline and all this stuff floating through your system to kind of calm things down. You're in a state of emergency. And so she goes and she gets checked out and she gets these MRIs and CAT scans and whatever, all these tests, x-rays. And they said, oh yeah, your vertebrae are slipping. You have 2 vertebrae in your neck that just keep slipping. They're not able to stay still. Megan has had scoliosis, so it's like she's got a little bit of a curvature. So instead of having a spine straight on, you just go back and forth.
Right.
It's tilted a little bit, so that'll give it a little bit more complication. And long story short, she's still in a huge amount of pain. She's like stretched a nerve. So it's like if you stretch a ligament and it takes a long time to go back, but when you stretch a nerve, good God, that is painful. That's just like you can't really do anything with it. And she looks fine. It's the same thing.
Right.
And she's got very little range of motion. She did yoga with me for a long time. She could easily turn her head so her chin's over her shoulder and her chin's over her other shoulder. You know what I mean? Look up to the ceiling, look down to the ground.
Yeah.
But she has she can barely do anything. Such a small accident, small quote unquote accident, but like huge, massive ramifications.
Right.
These injuries are no joke, but how do you help to recover from that? She's doing some PT work. She's working with a chiropractor in my office. Corona. Everybody knows him. I don't know if I should say his name or not, but anyway, she's working with him and they're trying to develop a game plan. But every single professional she's talked to has said it's going to be a minimum of 6 months before you even start to feel normal again.
It takes nerve damage
Super
and
long time.
any of that stuff just takes a long time because you're not getting a lot of blood flow through there. It's not like a muscle. So, So I think a nice way to kind of back this up is to say maybe start with the preventative things and maybe approach to physical fitness and things like that.
I like it. Let's start there.
And just with my experience where I was having a similar conversation with my buddy Nate last night. We were driving to the fights. And I was kind of saying I heard a quote somewhere that said, it was something basic along the lines of the true mark of wisdom is being able to actually learn from other people's mistakes.
Interesting.
And literally kind of own their experience to the point where you can almost pretend that it happened to you and you learn on that level, like when you really own it. Like, you know how you can tell somebody something, but then if they don't experience it for themselves, they tend to be like, oh, whatever. And then they experience it, they're like, holy crap, I didn't know. That's kind of how it's you can cut down a lot of pain and suffering if you learn from other people's
and
terrible
I see that,
errors.
Yeah,
So-
I see that a lot where you said you kind of own it, where I tell my clients all the time, if you cut out sugar, you're going to feel way better. But it's such a hard thing.
Right,
And then
right.
finally when they do, they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's like magic. I didn't know I could feel this good. I didn't know I was feeling so bad. And like, if you can take that, and we've had this discussion already, like for our 3 weeks of no sugar and no junk, you're like, this is amazing. I didn't even remember, like I didn't even realize I was feeling so poorly. So if we can, if any of y'all listening take anything away, try it. See if you can learn that
Okay.
too.
All right. Settle down, nutrition lady. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Go ahead.
Bring it
Sorry,
back
I
around.
took it off the
Yeah.
injury.
Yeah, chew your food. I
route.
got it. So I like to kind of contextualize my fitness, and I'm someone who's kind of, I tend to go a little hard at things,
Yep.
a little intense. So for where I've landed on this formula now, so I do yoga 3 days a week, and just from all the like stupid lifting I've done,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of times when people start getting into fitness, they will, particularly guys getting into bodybuilding and things, they overdevelop muscle systems and
Yeah.
underdevelop others. A lot of times the stabilizing muscles are not developed enough, and that's really where balance comes into play. And that's where, if you have a really overdeveloped chest but like you don't have range of motion in your shoulders,
Yeah.
a lot of times people aren't getting hurt in the gym. They're getting hurt like picking up something far away from their body, like
Yeah.
a grocery bag, and
Yep.
something just cranks, and they're like, oh, and it's because you don't have any range of motion and stability. So the formula I've landed on is doing strength conditioning and yoga, and those things are almost zero risk. Tim Moyer, who's my like strength coach and has been for many, many years now, him and Adrian were my strength coaches starting out, and their whole thing was like, you should not be getting injured in the gym.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
you should not be getting injured doing strength and conditioning. And for a lot of guys call it working out or whatever. And for me, the difference between strength and conditioning and doing a workout is that a workout is a lot of people do just to get tired, where
Right.
strength
Or like burn calories.
whatever. And strength and conditioning is where you are training with a specific outcome in mind, and you are Tim always called it folding layers into the sword. So
Okay.
if you know
Developing
how
skills.
you know how you make a Japanese katana, is that which is a samurai sword, they fold layer after layer into this sword, and you want to think about your body like that, like what layers are you folding into it.
Yeah.
So, and then
And that's kind of your protection.
that's how you build
your
up
armor, you say.
your armor. And then also, like, if you have a good strength and conditioning coach, then they're going to do a lot of stability work. They're going to work on the small muscles. They're going to do, and there's a lot of good resources around. And, there's, wherever you're listening to this, there's good strength coaches around. Ask around, you can find some. But, and I would think you want to think of strength and conditioning as a skill.
Yeah.
I think of it in the same light as like martial arts.
Totally agree.
There's techniques, there's movements, there's danger zones, there's things to be more careful about, there's things you can go balls out at and you won't get hurt, like especially body weight stuff. So, but the strength and conditioning piece is supposed to prep your body for the physical requirements that you're asking of it. And the other piece of that for me, yoga has been wonderful, because particularly hot yoga, because it helps me see where my incongruities are. And it also gives me, I use it more like active recovery than like my main physical
Because it's
practice.
not the amount of energy output that you put into yoga is minuscule compared to the other physical activities you do.
Yeah.
So, but when you do it, you're in a hot room, so you're very loose, your muscles are relaxed. You get to stretch everything back out. So you've built a lot of strength, which shortens muscles, right? And then you want to re-stretch them back out at yoga, and it gives you another focus to be limber and have that kind of adaptability there.
Yeah, well, I feel like, and this is less science coming in now, it's just my observation, but I feel like yoga, because everything I did before was like
Yeah.
a lot of like heavy weight, particularly CrossFit,
Right.
was just heavy weight at high speed and really explosive stuff. And yoga kind of slows everything down and then gives me the space to actually do more strength conditioning. And then grappling is a very strenuous on your muscles too.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of push pull, a lot of strain, and you're actually getting, it's almost like doing a whole bunch of rows and stuff. But the only part that I'm kind of willing to risk my body for is jujitsu.
Yeah.
So, but the other things are all to kind of mitigate that as much as I can. And then I've also started to do more jujitsu specific strength and conditioning. Like,
Oh, that's good.
Tim Carpenter at Hellfish MMA has a reverse hyper.
Oh yeah.
Which is awesome. You guys can Google that and see what I'm talking about. But basically, you kind of lay on this table and hold these handles, and the table kind of comes to your hips, and then you strap your feet into this like kind of strap thing, and then there's 2 plates on a pendulum, and you swing your legs, and then as your legs come forward, you kind of crunch in, and then when you bring it out, you crunch out, and like it basically just like it
Decompresses your spine,
It just
right?
decompresses your side, so your lower back.
So it's almost like an assisted forward fold. You know how in yoga we do forward
Pretty
fold
much.
where you stretch up and you keep your back flat and you try to bend forward. You keep your heels and toes together and you bend forward, try to put your face on your shins with your knees locked.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but you have some traction, right, with this weights and you're holding onto the table so it stretches your spine out. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's like in the momentum of the pendulum swinging forward with the weight will pull your feet and then decompress your
Yeah,
lower
makes
spine.
sense.
And then Tim Moyer gave me a kind of workout to do post jujitsu. So I do it every time I'm at the gym after I'm done rolling, so I don't like pre-fatigue my
Yeah, good idea.
lower back out. But so yeah, so that's kind of like where I've landed on. And for me, this is just a little tangent, is that I wouldn't take yoga or strength and conditioning seriously or as seriously if I didn't have kind of jujitsu calling me on my shit.
Oh,
Because like the better I do at the other two,
Yeah.
the better I do at jujitsu. And jujitsu is where the danger is. The other two are like not as much.
Pretty safe.
But I wouldn't push as hard in the other two
Right.
to give me the advantage in the sport that I'm. And that's how I have to do it. I'm not saying everyone has to do it. Some people, if you have a lot of, and I would say if I had more responsibility with like a family or like kids and stuff or like more whatever, like I would tone down the risk factors
Yeah.
of that because
because it is risky.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let me just make sure that we're on the same page. You're saying doing strength and conditioning in yoga is a really great way to help prevent injuries, right? That's what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's, when I was actually doing strength and conditioning with Tim Moyer, I got 0 injuries. When Josh
Awesome.
and I were, it was
That's good.
like literally every injury I've gotten has been when I haven't been doing strength and conditioning with Tim.
Yeah.
So-
Well, because he's good and he knows how to program things that aren't going to hurt you.
Right.
And he knows where to, he kind of can evaluate and say, here's your weak point. We're going to totally insulate the shit out of it so
Yep.
that you don't get yourself hurt.
Yeah. And I would say even for people that aren't like, well, I don't want to do jiu-jitsu and I don't want to do this and that.
Yeah.
Just so you know, they've done studies, and one of the biggest predictors of longevity is leg strength, particularly quad strength and foot speed. And the thing with the leg strength is this. So when you get older, think about getting up out of a chair.
Yep.
It's pretty much all quad strength, and you have to get up,
Yep.
plant your feet, and get up. The more that fails, the less likely you are to get up. The more you
Right.
sit, the less active you are, and then things degenerate from there.
Yep.
So,
Well,
or
and
you
if you've ever seen someone who's older, more well advanced in years, try to get out of a chair,
Yeah.
it's like miserable. It's just like a struggle, you know. It's like okay, and then you're like lean forward, you little rock to pop yourself up
Yep.
and out,
Yeah.
and you're like, and even people who have injuries are kind of like that too. But you don't want that. You want to have really good strength to be able to lift yourself up. We talked about that. I've talked about that with several of my clients in the past too. It's like you can do all the right things from a nutritional perspective, but you also have to have muscle tone. You have to have good
Right.
strength
Right.
to be able to maintain good health, because that's what health and fitness, that's why they go together.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's the strength piece of it.
Yep.
And then the other, so you could maintain your strength, be able to get up and down, or you could pull what my grandmother did, toots,
Yeah.
and just really slow your heart rate down to about like 30 beats
Oh my
a
gosh.
minute. I think her blood cycled like once an hour.
Oh
I
my
feel like
gosh.
that's what it was. She lived to like 91, so
Wow.
pretty good run for just being like, nah, I'm just gonna. Her big thing was like, when can I just be old? That was, that was great. And the other thing is foot speed. If you think about foot speed is like,
Wait, go back. You didn't finish the story about your grandmother. Did
What?
she just sit in a chair? Is that what you're trying to say?
yeah, like pretty much right where we're sitting is where she
just
sat
down
for
all
years.
the time.
Yeah.
So she did not develop her quad strength.
No.
She did not practice getting up.
And in her mind,
up
she
and
had
down.
zero reason to. She
Yeah.
was very content
Wow.
to sit where she was.
Okay.
So, anyway.
But I see the contrast you're making.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
I was trying to be funny.
I get it.
So, and the other thing is foot speed. And if you think about
Uh-huh.
that, it's where if you stumble, like you slip on ice, it's how fast you can move your foot to
Yeah.
catch yourself. And a big issue with older
Right.
folks is falling
And breaking a hip or something
and
like
breaking a hip. And then, oh man, if you have a hip replacement, which I think are going to be considered medieval in another couple years. I really think it's atrocious to like
know.
do a hip replacement on someone who's
Yeah.
in their 90s. It's like, come on, man, really? Anyway, that's just my own opinion.
Yeah.
So, and I actually know some people that have really snapped legs and stuff, just like tripping
Yeah.
outside, like my aunt, and then my
Yeah, I forgot about
we have a
that.
family friend that really messed her leg up, and it's stuff like, so it's really, if you can catch yourself
Yeah.
with like speed and agility, that's a huge advantage to keep yourself from like that massive kind of injury.
Yeah.
So
And you don't even, in my opinion, which could totally wrong, but you don't have to go super insanely hardcore. Like you go hardcore into
no.
stuff.
No, you don't need to go-
You can do some things, small things that are super useful. Like your mom walks every day. That's phenomenally helpful to get leg strength and do all these things. Foot speed, just from walking. She walks Gabby around the loop and then she walks herself around the loop. You know what I mean?
Right.
That is 5,000 billion times better than doing nothing and sitting in a chair all day.
Yeah.
Walking
Walking's tremendous.
Walking's wonderful.
And then particularly if you're walking, like the loop around here there's a lot of hills and
Yep.
incline and
Some big
decline.
hills.
So you're getting a lot of variation in like how your foot's falling and things like that.
So you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to find a strength trainer
Yeah.
like to get started.
Right,
There's a
right.
lot of things you can do with a very low barrier to entry. You can do some body weight stuff or just walk.
Yeah.
Just get started. Just get moving. Even if you walk 2 blocks, like that's still better than sitting in your chair all day long.
Yeah, and I would even say that a really good entry point for people to start kind of thinking about this stuff is like yoga is really
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yoga's
good.
great.
It's a pretty safe on ramp. You can get hurt in yoga, but if you're going to a good spot where they're really
Yeah.
looking out for you, I
And
think
most
that's
of them are pretty good around here.
a really good spot to start.
Yeah. Do not be intimidated if you don't have good flexibility. That does not
Yeah.
matter. I've had a lot of my clients say to me like, "Oh, I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible." Like, well, that's the point.
That's the point,
That's
yeah.
totally the point. You start out not flexible, and they take you through these ranges of motion. And if it's a good studio, they will help you to modify to get to where you can go.
Yeah.
There's some people who are like bendy noodles. Hello,
Yeah.
but then there are other people who just need help to get started somewhere, and it's totally an easy way to go.
See, I don't take any of that seriously when someone says I'm not stretchy. I'm like, no, I'm not stretchy.
Yeah.
Like that's like you probably have more
Yeah.
innate stretchiness than me. Because
True.
like I was the tightest dude ever
Yep.
going into that now, like doing yoga for like 3 years. I've got pretty good
Yeah.
range of motion. So,
Yeah, and I think another good point to make about that I'm not stretchy is a lot of people are probably more flexible than they think, but they don't have enough strength to get into or out of the posture.
Right.
That's a really big factor too. If you just I'm going to say soft, you don't have a lot of muscle tone, you could probably bend yourself into something but not get out of it. So your body's not going to let you go in if you don't have enough muscle to get out. So it tightens everything. So it's not that you're not necessarily not flexible. It's you've got to start somewhere and build some strength back up.
Right. So so we'll go to that's kind of a proactive, like have a physical practice.
Yep,
we'll
have
say.
a physical practice.
And then now let's say like, okay, you're in a physical practice and you start feeling maybe some muscle tightness in
Okay.
certain areas. Like what can you do yourself? And we'll start with like home things you can do and then work out to like more paid for like massages and stuff. So if you look into Kelly Starrett's Ready to Run book, I've gone through his other material and it's super dense and it gives you a lot of theory behind all the things. Ready to Run is a very distilled version of a lot of his methodology and it gives you for me the best bang for the buck as far as like it's a very quick read and it should just be called Ready to Do Anything. So any physical practice just being, because it talks a lot about posture, how your feet should be
Yeah.
aligned, like basically not wearing funky shoes, getting zero drop shoes, things like that.
Flats. Ladies, wear flats.
Yeah,
Just
flats.
Train yourselves to wear flats.
Even like, so I'm big into like the barefoot
Yep.
type stuff, particularly for martial arts. And
Yep.
Anyway, we can talk more about that later, but I thought I would share with everyone like my two favorite
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
kind of therapies that I do at home like all the time. So I'll show you the piece of equipment you need. So let's see. This is a lacrosse ball, and you can get these on Amazon for like, I don't know, I got like 10 for $6
Yeah,
or something.
something
They're not, it's a
not
very
expensive.
hard,
Harder than a tennis ball.
harder than a tennis ball, and you can do a gang of stuff with this.
Yep.
So
Very versatile.
One of my favorite things to do is just to stand, and then for people that are a really good practical application of this is if you have a standing desk at work, is just throw this under your desk, and then when you're standing, like take your shoes off, and then like basically put it underneath your foot,
And roll it around.
and then put all of your weight or like varying degrees of your weight on it, and you'll feel like the crunchies in your
Yeah,
feet,
in your
and you
feet.
start working that out. I did this all the time when I was running a lot. It
Yeah.
really, really helps because your feet will loosen up, and then you'll find, I call it putting like slack in the line.
Yep.
So you actually will find like you'll have less tension in your calves,
Yep.
less tension in your knees. You can also use this as like a hotspot finder.
Yep.
So like if your shoulder's jacked, you can lay on the ground or go up against a really hard wall. You don't want to punch this through your drywall. That's a bad
Yeah.
move. But like you kind of can hug yourself, find the hotspot, and then lean into it,
Yep.
just like you would if you got
Roll
a really
onto
good
it.
sports massage. You can actually use 2 of these and sandwich them like
Yeah.
between your calf and then press
So
down
like one
on it.
on one side of your calf, one on the other side
So
of
you'd
your
be
calf, and you kind of.
you would be on the ground. One is underneath your calf,
Yep.
and then next to the ground, and you have the other one in your hand. You just kind of find the spots, and
Yeah,
then
I've done that. That
run
is
it out.
intense.
So, but overall, my favorite thing to do with this is just to do the standing thing.
Yeah.
And if you get really good with this, you can actually graduate to a golf ball, which is way more intense because
yes,
it's
very dense.
way harder and way more specific. So that's I kind of I call it like seek and destroy. Like you
Yeah.
find hot spots, and then you there. And if you read any of the Ready to Run or Kelly Starrett stuff, he's also got a website called the Mobility Wad where they run you through a mobility practice
Okay.
where you find hot spots and you eliminate the muscles because you want your muscles to be very smooth.
And so what you're trying to do is break up any knots, break up any even scar tissue sometimes,
Correct.
and kind of like one of the big goals, correct me if I'm wrong, is to bring fresh blood into the area to do repair.
Yep.
That's where when you have knots and stuff, it kind of prevents that blood flow from getting there effectively, and then the knots will maintain. They'll stay there instead of breaking up and getting loose.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, if I can say about Megan, with her neck and shoulder, and it goes all the way down her, well, I guess her left shoulder, and down her hand, her like 2 fingers are going numb and all this craziness because it's this nerve stuff, right? But for her, there's so much pain. Just to bring blood flow to the area, one of the best things you can possibly do is just do like, if you've ever heard of dry brushing, that's great. I'll put some notes there for you guys later, but just touching the area, running up towards your heart. Don't ever go away from your heart. You go up
Yeah.
towards the heart, and just to bring some stimulation and blood flow to the area. Before you can start working on massaging it and doing all of that, you just need to get things moving. That's
Right,
kind of one of the
right.
big factors, or the big baseline goals of any kind of mobility support and recovery support, is you need to keep things moving. A
Yeah.
lot of times, if you have an injury, you kind of you want to hold it in. You don't want to use it. You don't want to stand on the leg. You don't want to use the arm. You don't want to do those things. That's almost one of the worst things you can do. In this type of injury, if you have a broken arm or whatever, don't do those things. But
Right.
you do need to regain that muscle mobility and strength so that your body learns, oh yeah, this is not dead forever. It's not broken forever.
Right.
You can still do some work here.
Yeah, and that's one of my other favorite ones that I won't show everybody, but it's basically like they call them voodoo bands.
Oh, yeah.
From Rogue Fitness, where like if you just talking about blood flow.
Yep.
If you jack up your knee, they're actually these really long rubber
Yeah, big
straps,
thick rubber bands.
but they're cut. It's like just a strip, so they're not connected.
Oh, yeah.
And then you tourniquet the knee, like.
Yep.
And then you wrap it like super tight. You start it like soft and then wrap it tight, and then you'll take it through ranges of motion
Yeah, so bend
for
and
like
flex, bend and flex.
to like move your foot back and forth,
Turn
all
around.
kinds of stuff. Then you unwrap it, and the blood just because you
Fresh, good oxygenated blood
because
flows through.
you're basically like tourniqueting that area. So and then Kelly Starrett always talks about like if you have a knee injury, a lot of times you need to generate some space for that knee to heal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll do mobility work on my calf, my quad, and my hamstring because the looser those are, the more space the knee has to move around. Because a lot of times when you get an injury, or just general muscle soreness and tightness, like if your knee's jacked up, your quad will tighten, especially at the insertion points, your calf will tighten. And just from personal experience and what I've heard from all of my friends, the most pain that you can,
Oh, yeah.
the most painful massage that you can get is a calf massage.
So true.
And if anyone wants to test that theory, contact my buddy George,
Oh, my
Hand
gosh.
and Stone in Warrington. Woo!
Yeah.
It is rough. It was brutal. And like,
Your calves take a beating.
because
They compensate for everything
they,
when you're walking.
They explained to me it's like the calf is like the catch-all. So
Yeah.
like it is your shock absorber, and it's basically where all your junk goes into. So like if you have incongruities in your step or anything, it just goes into the calf, and then
Yep.
the calf tightens. But good googly moogly, it is brutal.
It is totally. I remember before I started my yoga excursion last year with Bikram, you would just like touch my calf, barely any weight, barely anything, like the weight of a quarter, nothing, and I would be like flinching in pain.
Yeah,
It was bad.
yeah. No, I mess with my brother all the time in jiu-jitsu. I'll just grab his calf and dig my thumb. He's like, dude, you can't do it like that.
That's awful.
And then
So that's why working the ball under your foot and on your calf it sounds like ridiculous that could help you with neck and spine pain, but it really does. It really can, because everything is, you go straight down, right? North to south, south
Yep.
to north. You just like have to work it out. And
Yeah.
it seems simple. It is pretty simple, actually. It doesn't take you much time, especially if you're just standing around.
right.
Roll it around and then do some of your calf muscle. That's like super helpful.
Yeah, so that's a good, and there's a whole bunch of other. I just wanted to give some simple ones, just
Yeah.
because I have like every mobility thing that you can want, because I've been banged up a lot. So, and then this is my absolute favorite, which I would say if you're going to get one mobility tool, this would be my recommendation. So for folks can see this on the YouTubes, this is called a rumble roller,
It's like
and
a foam roller
this
with
is
spikes all over it.
I got into
The
foam
one-tip
rolling
spikes.
from Tim Moyer. And we started with just like the regular foam core. The black ones are usually the best because that represents the most dense ones.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And then I graduated to this fella, which has spikes on it and is super hard.
Blunted spikes.
Yeah, blunted spike. And it's a little, it's made of super dense foam and has a really solid core, but you can do quite a bit with this.
Yep.
It's very
you
versatile.
can roll out a lot of sore muscles and knots and those things.
If you were going to get one, like I would recommend this one, or they have they have a blue one that's a little lighter, but the foam rolling, the technique is pretty much the same,
Yeah.
but also like do some research because you can hurt yourself doing these.
Yeah.
But like I bring this into yoga every
Yeah.
time. So I try to get to yoga early, and then I'm in the hot room, and then I do mobility work for about 20 minutes.
Yep.
And that's how I get to it every week. And sometimes I'll bring it in and do it before jiu-jitsu as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I really find breaking up, particularly, see, a lot of people will say like, don't do foam rolling before you exercise.
Oh.
But for me, I like breaking up scar tissue and then stretching it out, which is what
Right.
we do in yoga.
Right.
So for me, it really helps. I break
And
up.
that's yoga. It's not working out. It's a little bit of a different picture.
Yeah. So, and that's for people that I guess can't see it online or that are just listening. A foam roller is like a long tube that's about 36 inches long, and it's very hard. And what I do is I sit on it a lot of times because I like break up stuff in my glutes.
We'll put it on the thumbnail so people can see.
Yeah. So we'll do that. But and you can also like find stuff in your calf. I roll out my quads, I roll out my hamstrings. You can put it in your neck and do
Yeah.
that. Megan, don't do that. That's you're
don't
not
do
there
that.
yet. You've got some more recovery to do before you can
Yeah,
mess with
for
this
sure.
stuff.
So these are some really good things to do preventatively, getting some good strength training into you. The more, you have said this before, the more layer of muscle you have, that's the more layer of insulation and armor.
Right.
You want to really give yourself some good muscle conditioning so that you can absorb shock and things. Megan is awesome, and we've done a lot of physical things together, like, yoga and these things. But I would imagine, I would be hard pressed to think that this would not be true, that if she was some sort of really intense athlete and had a huge amount of muscle and insulation, that the injury would not be so strong for her. You know what I mean?
If Brock Lesnar got rear-ended, he probably wouldn't have a neck injury.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where you say, what can I do preventatively? Because that was a total accident. A lot of injuries, almost all injuries are accidents, right? You don't plan for them to happen. So
Right.
what can you do preventatively to help yourself out before the accident occurs?
Well, and that's what I think also is important to realize too, where because I've had people tell this to me, where like, well, I'm not asking a lot of my body. I just work in an office and I'm not trying to do very much.
Yeah.
But you can't control the things like, just imagine like slipping on the ice
Yeah,
or something.
you can't control that.
So, and one of the big things too is, particularly people that get advanced in years or really out of shape, they have problems getting up off the ground.
Right. Yes.
And
you
that's
mentioned that
the first thing that Tim Moyer will teach people to do, is how to effectively get up off the ground,
Yeah.
because it's you can do Turkish get-ups and all kinds of things. But that's, I mean, going back to my grandma Tootsie, she fell all the time.
I couldn't get up.
And couldn't get up. She was like a turtle. But because her spine was so curved, she would fall like a penguin. Like she would just like never once got hurt falling ever. And Josh and I would come home from school and she'd be laid out on the pavement outside.
Oh my gosh.
And then you'd kind of come over and be like, hey, Toots, and she's like, oh, I just fell, we'll go inside. And then I'm like, come on, here, you lift her up. And I'm like, you doing all right? She's like, I'm fine. And you just put her down. But and I was like, how long have you been out here? She's like, I don't know. Because she'd go out and get the mail and fall. And then we'd go. But she'd sit out there for a while.
Poor dear.
So,
But like the point is, if you had good leg strength and mobility, like you wouldn't have to lay there like a turtle
Right.
for hours before your grandsons come home and pick you up and put you in your chair.
it happened a lot.
Poor
So,
dear,
yeah, she fell a lot. So,
That's so
but
sad.
again, that's quad strength and foot speed. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so because you can't really predict, like, and car accidents are horrific.
Yeah.
So you can really get jacked up
For sure.
in those. And I mean, even just so it's not like if you did an insane amount of strength and conditioning,
Right,
if you got in a car accident at 60 miles an hour, that's not going to like.
No, I know.
Yeah.
So I get
But
that.
we're saying
but
the
I'm just
smaller-
saying,
yeah.
there are some things where perhaps if there was more muscle insulation, then it maybe would not have had to pull so hard on nerve or
Correct.
ligaments. You know what I
Correct,
mean? Those
yeah.
things would not
Yeah.
have been impacted so
you
strongly.
would have more,
possibly.
it's more stabilizing muscles,
Right.
And that's really what I think is probably lacking in a lot of people's training, and it was certainly lacking in mine when
Yeah.
I lifted like a moron for a long time, which I think young guys are guilty of when you're like 18, because I wasn't in like structured
Yeah.
sports, so I was doing it on my own. I really had to learn how to work out, and that's, thankfully I had a really good teacher with Tim when I got like into my early 20s.
Right.
So that was really helpful, and like how I train now is how he taught me to train then.
Good.
So
Very good.
and then I want to talk about some general muscle soreness
Yep,
things
okay.
as well. One of my favorite things is that when we moved into this place, one of my wedding presents to you,
Yep.
aside from being an awesome, stellar husband, was we found an awesome old tub.
Yep. An old clawfoot iron, wrought
Iron-
iron
oh,
tub.
dude. And then I refinished it, and we got some cool fixtures for it and everything. But it's actually big enough to fit me in
Yep.
there.
Which is impressive.
and I can actually soak in it. So we do, and you introduced me to like Epsom soaks.
Yep.
And
Awesome.
I really enjoy those. You get tremendous amount of magnesium and like just overall body soreness. It really helps with
Well, magnesium helps to relax muscles.
relax muscles, and I feel like I just
Yeah.
really enjoy them. So
They're
and
great.
I
Great
do
for
those like
recovery.
probably twice a week. I've also been getting into the sauna.
Yeah, that's been good for you.
So I've been doing, and if Rhonda Patrick's has been doing some tremendous, she's done a couple podcasts on Rogan recently about the benefits of sauna, and I really enjoy it. But I'm more of like a heat guy, really enjoy
Right.
the heat.
Versus cold.
Yeah, I mean, I would do the ice bath if I could jump in an ice bath and then jump in the sauna,
Right.
which I think we'll get to
Eventually.
in the next house. That's what's up. But I've been enjoying that. And then Bikram, you also get the heat shock proteins
Yeah.
from that because you get stupid hot in that room too.
Yeah, and I actually have really been enjoying going when it's been colder out, wearing my Bikram clothes, which is not, they're
Yep.
not warm because it's hot in that room.
Right.
Walking from the car to the studio, and it's like without a jacket or anything like that. You have
Yeah.
a lot of cold and you have a lot of heat, and that gives you good contrast.
Yeah, it was like 2 degrees out. I was walking in there
I
with
know.
shorts. People were like, "Is he walking here with shorts?" I'm like, "It's fine. It's
Yeah.
like 100 degrees in there. It's fine."
Yeah, it's more than 100 degrees in the studio.
It's supposed to be 110, I think. So
So those are some good things. The Epsom salt bath and heat,
I had some other ones.
CBD.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of end on that one,
Oh,
or not
okay.
end on it, but
You have others
talk-
that you want to talk about first?
and then I obviously being hydrated.
Massage.
Massage is awesome, and then I have done like one of my goals is to be able to get into a spot where I have the time in my schedule
Yeah.
and the finances to be able to do a massage every week.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it.
Professional massage.
Professional massage. You're lovely. I love you.
But I have little tiny hands. I am not nothing compared to George.
Well, if we had for those, like, I've gotten a bunch of different massages over the years. I've gotten acupuncture, which for me didn't work at all. But all the modalities that I've tried, sports massage, which is not a fluff and buff, like they're not there to make you feel good.
Deep tissue.
So I go to a fella named George over in Warrington, and he's an absolute stud and is just he has insanely strong hands. Yeah. So, cause I'm torn up, but dude, it's no joke. It's cause they always ask me, cause they're all very pleasant and nice at that place. They're like, "Hey, how was your massage?" And I'm like, kind of like woozy from the pain.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, that's good." Yeah. So, you relax. I'm like, well, now that it's over. Yeah. So, I want to feel like something happened.
Yeah. Right.
And then, and I guess, let's talk about some CBD stuff.
Or do you want to talk about some food things?
Well, I think we've been talking about the last 2 episodes, basically not eating like a jackass can really help with overall inflammation. So it'll also, if you eat well, which, however you would like to define that, I'll let you expand on that shortly, and then stay hydrated. It's going to help you with your recovery time and also your overall level of fatigue and your muscle soreness.
Yep.
So if you don't eat like an asshole, you'll be feeling better across the board in any physical activities you're doing.
Yeah, so avoiding sugar, avoiding refined carbohydrates, avoiding alcohol, these things are really awesome to help with recovery. But what you mentioned, staying hydrated, one of the roles of water in the body is to lubricate your joints and muscles.
It's like oil.
It's like oil. If you don't have, so I love this analogy, and I give this analogy in my office all the time to my new clients. So when you have properly hydrated cells, it is very easy for waste to move out, nutrients to move in. The cells can kind of move around and send communication back and forth very easily. It's like you have a handful of grapes. Right? Well-hydrated cells. They're mobile. They can roll around. They're really happy cells. And then if you're dehydrated, it's like instead of having a handful of grapes, you have a handful of raisins. Your cells can kind of almost get like sticky. They bunch up. They don't move very well. They can't get waste out effectively. They can't bring nutrients in effectively. They can't communicate with each other effectively. And that's no good, right? Then you have soreness and you have cramps and you have all these things that are happening. So one of the first things I ever tell any of my clients if they ever have any kind of joint pain or muscle pain is make sure you're hydrated. And we talked about this before. Proper hydration begins with the general recommendation of drink half of your body weight in ounces of water every day. So for easy math, if you're 100 pounds, you drink 50 ounces of water. You also want to compensate in case you have any sort of diuretic beverage. Hello, coffee.
Yep.
So a diuretic beverage is any beverage that takes more water from your body to process it through your system than it receives from the beverage in the first place. Coffee, tea, alcohol, juice, soda, energy drinks. Those are the most common things that people drink that take water from them rather than give water to them.
Right.
So you need to compensate. For every 1 ounce of a diuretic beverage, you need 1.5 to 2 ounces of water to compensate, to kind of bring your body back to that neutral.
Right.
So that can turn out to be a lot of water. I've got 10 ounces of coffee here. I need to drink 15 ounces of extra water today to maintain my minimum. So instead of 60 ounces of water, I've got to drink 75 ounces of water to reach my goal, to stay well hydrated.
Yep. I'm a big fan of liquid.
Yeah.
I don't usually have a problem reaching my hydration.
You don't. But a lot of people do. They're not used to drinking water. I mean, I've had a couple of clients recently who are like, I just don't even like the taste of water. And that tells me there's a significant degree of dehydration there. Right?
Yeah.
So we want to kind of bring that back into the system slowly. You want to have grapes as cells. You don't want raisins. That's especially very, very helpful for recovery. You need to be able to bring those healing nutrients to the point of injury in the first place. Now, I will give the caveat that you can drink too much water.
Yep.
So the cap for most females who are a little bit smaller than males is about 100 ounces per day. You don't really need to go more than 100 ounces of water. Even if you weigh more than that, if that's your half of your body weight, you really want to keep yourself at about 100 because you don't want to flush out any essential nutrients or get too much in your system.
Yeah.
And for males, I say you can go up to about a gallon. You can go to that's 128 ounces
Yeah.
without having any issues. Now, there is another caveat too. If you're sweating a whole lot, if you're doing a lot of things, you can definitely drink more as long as you're replenishing electrolytes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put a little pinch of sea salt in that water, get your electrolytes to stay up, and that's like
Yeah, do
fantastic.
that. I really like the sea salt in there. You don't really taste it.
Yeah, you shouldn't taste it.
Yeah. What's
If
funny,
you taste it way too much, you need to dilute that.
what's funny is you always say that you don't drink you don't like drinking a lot during the Bikram yoga.
Yeah.
And they're kind of weird about that. I feel like they.
Well, I can't. If I drink
Yeah.
in, then my bladder's full, and I can't do any of the floor series without feel like I'm gonna burst.
Well, that's what's weird. Like for me with athletics, like as soon as I start sweating, I've said this before to you, but like my body like switches over
Yep.
where it's nothing's going into my blood. I'm just sweating everything out. Like I don't have to. I don't
Yeah.
feel like as soon as I start sweating, it's just like we're using all
Which
of
is
this
okay.
to.
That's all right.
get out,
By
but-
individuality.
Yeah.
So that's where water is so important. That's one of the easiest things you can possibly do from a nutritional perspective to help encourage recovery, right?
Yeah.
Being hydrated.
Yeah.
Fantastically helpful. And then you talked about the removing junk from your diet. That's helpful too, but you also want to start increasing or rather even including for some people some good anti-inflammatory fats.
Right.
Into your diet because fatty acids break down eventually into things, excuse me, called prostaglandins. And these prostaglandins are pseudo hormones. They're not quite hormones, but they're not quite not hormones. And they are responsible for controlling inflammation and anti-inflammation in the body. So certain fats are more pro-inflammatory and certain fats are more anti-inflammatory. That's why you've heard a lot of people talk about omega-3 fatty acids, right?
Right.
Omega-3s are very anti-inflammatory. So keeping those types of things like from salmon and good healthy fish and these other omega-3s, you can actually find omega-3s in grass-fed beef, in pasture-raised eggs, and in some other dairy products you can find as well if they're pasture-raised specifically. If they're farm-raised or factory farm-raised, it's not going to have the same nutrient profile. So those are all really helpful to reduce inflammation in the body and then help to promote healing.
And then one of my favorite anti-inflammatory things, which I think more and more people are becoming aware of and starting to use, is actually CBDs.
Yep.
So there are, I think when I first started using it, it was from BioCBD Plus,
Yep.
and I heard of them on Tim Ferriss's show, and they have really great CBD made from hemp. And it is emulsified with turmeric and a gang of other
Yeah, their
things.
CBD oil is really lovely. I use them in my office.
Yeah, and I think I still think it may be my favorite so far, as far as just how my body uptakes it. So like,
Yeah.
if you have soreness, like my neck's sore right now, I rub that in there, and then dude, it just chills your muscles out, and just everything just kind of relaxes. And it's made from hemp. People get a little bit weird because it's
There's no THC in it. You're not going to get high from
because
it.
it's like, isn't that weed juice? Kind of, but
Kind
not
of.
really. There's no THC in it. Plenty of people have used it that would
Yeah.
not smoke marijuana.
Right.
So it's fine. You're not tripping balls.
Right.
It's totally cool.
It just reduces inflammation. And this particular blend from BioCBD Plus is awesome because, like you said, they have some other things emulsified with it. And their CBD is microemulsified so that it is super easy to absorb, get right into your spot where you need it. The topical oil is my favorite thing that company makes.
Yeah, as far as I've tried some other ones, and that seems to still be the best topical that I've had as far as the effect. So like knees sore, slather your knee in it, and then it absorbs it, and it's wonderful. I still like I'm doing the sublingual drops.
Yeah, that's not from BioCBD Plus.
Which is a different company, but those seem to be really good. I feel like I can kind of feel the muscles relax just generally. And then I've got the salve that you gave me from that company as well. That works nicely.
Yeah, it's called DeCrema.
Okay.
And that's a local company that's close to where we live.
DeCrema's the company.
DeCrema's
I
the
got it,
company.
okay.
It's also the owner's last name. So it's, I believe, if I'm getting that correctly. Sorry if I got that wrong, guys.
Yeah.
But I just started working with them, just started carrying them in my office recently. And I was like, what's my minimum order? Like, how do I place this order? And then she's like, yeah, you can do this and this. And here's how it goes. And I said, yeah, I'm a small company a little bit, so I don't know how quickly this is going to go. Well, within a week and a half, I've sold everything except one product, which is on hold for one of my clients. So I'm like, I guess this is some pretty good stuff. But they have sublingual drops, which are fantastic to kind of maintain your body throughout the day. They have a gel that's like super potent.
Yeah, what's the deal with that? Like, what would that use be? Because it's like almost looks like a syringe where you
it is a
squeeze
little
out
syringe.
a tiny amount and then put it inside your gums.
Yeah, you absorb it through your mouth there. Both of those things, the sublingual drops are made from that stuff in the syringe. It's just diluted.
Yeah.
So you get a smaller dose. I'm all about, and if you ever work with me, you hear me say this, minimum effective dose. You don't need to take tons and tons to get the same. Sometimes
I don't agree.
he does not agree, but oftentimes there's a point where you take so much, it doesn't make any difference compared to taking a lower amount.
Yeah.
You're just going to pee it right out. You know what I mean? It's not useful to your system. So start low and slow and work your way up until you find a dose that works. So the sublingual drops are great. They're lower potency. If you need something that's a higher potency for anti-inflammation, for anxiety, for any of these things, you need to take a little bit of a higher dose. Most people need to take a little bit of a higher dose, and that's what the syringe is for.
Yeah.
So it's just a higher potency. It's just not diluted.
Yeah,
and then these sublingual drops are diluted with coconut oil, so it's nothing like
Right. Right.
Some people use like what is that? Vegetable glycerin or something like this.
Okay.
It's just coconut oil
Right. Right. So
or propylene glycol. Which, like, don't worry about that.
not a good thing.
Not a good thing. Don't need that.
And I think for people that are, if you work out and you get sore, a lot of people take ibuprofen
Yeah.
or that, like, that actually long term will promote inflammation.
Yep.
And really
it can wreck your digestive
really
system.
mess you up.
And it gives, there just was a study that came out that's saying people who take Tylenol regularly have a higher risk of all kinds of cancers and problems.
It's nasty, dude.
Yeah.
And they can wreck your liver. There's people, you can overdose on, I think it's Tylenol.
Yeah.
And like whatever that one chemical is. Like people have died.
Acetaminophen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Right. So that's where you cannot overdose on CBD. It's not possible for you to overdose on CBD. The only caveat I will say, and I'm sorry, I've said the word caveat like 50 times in this episode.
it's the word of the day. I think I
What
said
a
it a few
day.
times too.
Yeah. Anyway, is that any oral version of a CBD product has to pass through your liver in order to like really have full potency. So it does take time for onset.
Yeah.
If you know you're going to go train jiu-jitsu and you might get banged up, take it early, take it ahead of time. Any of these sublingual drops or the gel or anything from the syringe is going to take about 2 hours to get absorbed. Yes, you absorb it through the mouth. Yes, there's a little bit of action right at the beginning, but for full effect, it takes about 2 hours because it has to be processed through your liver.
Right.
Before it becomes fully potent, fully active.
But the topical stuff, dude, that's
Yeah,
like
that's instant. That's right immediately to absorb.
So, and I would say
Does
like
not have to go through your liver.
I never take Advil, Tylenol,
Yeah.
any of that stuff. So and I get, I'm sore and doing that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But so
It's great.
It really
It's
does
great.
work. And a lot of the folks that we've given it to that are more used to taking, they're like, holy crap, this
Yeah.
stuff's awesome. So
Yeah, and for headaches and stuff, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get migraines sometimes, and with this CBD, if I can get that into my system and have it in a sublingual or oral fashion where I don't have to swallow anything like a pill or whatever, I get super nauseous. I just like, throw
Right,
up all the time when I
right, yeah,
can't
yeah.
keep anything in me when I get a migraine. And I can just rub that. You put it right on your gums or under your tongue, and it does take some time to kick in. But then a couple hours later, I'm like, wow, I can actually sit up. I can turn a little light on in the room, and function and keep going on with my day. I don't have to take any medication.
right, which is super nice.
Yeah.
So that's my jam as far as my favorite kind of new thing we've added into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think so if none of that stuff works, what I would suggest is for people that have, this is a little bit farther along than, this is more like catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
I just want to mention a podcast that I listened to this week,
Sure.
which was on Joe Rogan Experience. It's episode 1066 with
Oh, yeah.
the one and only Mel Gibson and Dr. Neil Riordan.
Yep.
Hopefully I'm saying that dude's name right. And his website is cellmedicine.com.
CELL
Yep.
medicine.com.
Yep. Oh, right. Yes. So he's down in Panama City and does works with a lot of stem cells.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the stem cells from umbilical cords. And I would just highly recommend, the podcast is only about an hour.
Yeah, it was really quick
It's
listen.
pretty short,
Listen
and
to it,
really
too.
Mel Gibson got on to Rogan so that he wanted this doctor to come on and talk about
Yeah.
the therapies that they're doing down there. And
That stuff's awesome.
Mel Gibson's dad was 92. He had all these problems. He was going to get a hip replacement. He had a heart problem. He had all this stuff, and they did intravenous stem cell injections and solved everything. Now his dad's like close to 100. He's
Yeah.
really vibrant. He doesn't have to get a hip replacement.
Yeah.
He's doing all this stuff. I know there's some UFC fighters that have gone down and gotten the stem cells into their joints and their
Yeah.
knees and their hips and their shoulders, and then they do the full body, and it's just fascinating what they can regenerate and do. And it's like really, it's actually, they're starting to do it with folks with autism.
Yeah.
And that's helping a lot.
Interesting.
And they're doing MS is huge.
Oh, yeah,
like,
for sure.
And like knocking, there was a lady that had rheumatoid arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
She was paying over $100,000 a year in medicine
Yeah.
for all the pills and
Of
stuff.
course.
Yeah. And then her husband, who has a PhD, had to keep working to be able to pay for all of her drugs. And then she went down to Panama, saw this doctor, got the stem, and then rheumatoid arthritis done.
She did a couple of treatments.
She did.
It wasn't
She had to
just
do
one treatment.
multiple
She did
treatments.
multiple treatments, and it took about a year and a half.
Yeah. So,
But now she's like, doesn't have to take anything.
no meds. Her husband could retire, and it's pretty sweet. And I mean, the reason it's down in Panama is because they relaxed some rules about what you can use things for, and hopefully that drug will make it into.
Yeah, now it counts as a drug because it's been refined.
Yeah, hopefully it'll make it into the U.S. where it's more accessible. But for those that have like really catastrophic nerve damage,
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing it for people like injecting like stem cells into discs where you're not
Yeah.
having to get disectomies and fusions and stuff,
Yeah.
which are horrible for you. Like it can really mess up. So it's really altering people's lives. I would highly recommend listening to that podcast
Yeah,
and then
it's
checking
very
in.
interesting.
I'm really interested. I told my brother, I'm like, we're doing a field trip to like Panama in like a couple years, and I'm just gonna get everything done. Like fired up, dude. Just everywhere there's
Yep.
damage, let's do it up. So,
Yeah, very cool.
did you have anything else to add off? Because you listen to the podcast.
I
Too,
did.
right?
No,
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to add about the podcast because we're covering a lot of the big points. If you listen to it, you'll hear all that stuff too.
Yeah.
But I think this is a pretty good basis.
Yeah.
Muscle strength, you want to give yourself some good armor. You want to give yourself some good flexibility so you're not in stiff armor, right?
Right.
You want to help with yourself with nutrition as much as you can. Really, truly, cutting out sugar and drinking your water is like more than half the battle for most people.
Right.
Sometimes that's everything. I do want to give one illustration. I had a client who I only saw her 3 times because, finances, whatever, it was all. She came with RA, rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
To see me, and I only saw her, like I said, a couple times, and it was a massive turnaround for her. I hardly did anything with her as far as nutrition actually goes. We just shifted. She was drinking a lot of soda, because she just felt like that was the only thing that could quench her thirst, which oftentimes people feel that way with the bubbliness, and there's usually some sodium in soda, and your body's like, oh, finally, minerals, electrolytes, something, right? And that's kind of what you want more than the actual soda itself. But anyway, all we did over a matter of 3 or 4 weeks was shift. So she was drinking about 4 ounces of water a day. That is it. And everything else was soda.
Whoa.
Everything. And it was diet soda too, because she thought she was trying to like help herself out here. So
Uh-huh.
all we did over the period of time was swap. We switched, and by the time she stopped seeing me, which, like I said, I only saw her 3 times, she was drinking maybe about 30, 40 ounces of water a day and 1 soda. 1 or 2 sodas, and that was like her treat. I'm like, it's fine, step in the right direction. Totally okay with that. Keep stepping in the right direction. But she should have been drinking maybe 180, 170, or excuse me, she should have been drinking 80 or 90 ounces of water a day.
Yeah.
And she was only at 35, 40, and all her pain was gone. Virtually all of her pain, 95% of her pain was gone. She used to not be able, she had to ice her hands for 2 hours before she could open her door. Or like pull her drawer open to get her dressed in the morning because her hands hurt so badly. And we swapped that, and 30 ounces of water a day, 40 ounces of water a day. That is it. And it resolved almost all of her joint problems.
Wow.
Amazing, right? And
Yeah.
it's just water. People don't think about it as much as they should. And it's like, all these other things, sweet tea, soda, these carbonated beverages, like they don't count as water. Your body does not treat them the same way as it does plain old water.
Right. A little
So-
dab of sea salt.
A little teeny pinch of sea salt. If you taste salt in your water, it's too much.
Yeah. Don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it.
You
Just a little tiny
shouldn't
pinch.
taste
You
it.
should
Yeah,
not
I
taste
do.
it.
I do in this 48 ounce Nalgene. I go through at least 3 of these a day,
Yep.
depending on my physical activities. But just a little tiny pinch of
Yep.
Celtic sea salt. It's delicious.
Celtic sea salt.
But
You can use a pink Himalayan salt.
yeah, whatever you
can
want,
do-
but-
as long as it's not ionized table salt.
Right.
Yeah. And that's because, just a little bit there.
Go ahead.
Because when you have a factory made salt like that, it is chemically pure, quote unquote. It's sodium chloride and then iodine when they add iodine to it.
Yeah.
Your body reacts to that differently than it does to a full mineral profile. If you have any of these natural sea salts, like sea salt, Celtic sea salt, pink Himalayan salt, gray salt, whatever, all these things, you have other minerals as kind of a group in there. It's not just sodium chloride iodine, you've got other things. So your body's like, oh, okay, I know what to do. This is a real food. I'll use this. I'll absorb it. You have a little bit of magnesium, a little bit of selenium, a little bit of these other minerals that are trace minerals. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say for those who are interested or do push their bodies really hard, if you're going to push your body really hard, like long term, you want to become an expert not only in working out, but also in recovery.
Yes.
It's very important to focus on and become skilled at recovery.
Yes.
And that's really what I've kind of come to realize through all of my injuries and kind of gauging where my body is and being like, okay, if I push really hard, I need to recover really hard too.
Yep.
So that's all the modalities of foam rolling and using a lacrosse ball and using like different stretching and making sure one of the other things that Tim always drills into me is warming up and cooling down, like pre and post workout, and you know, the sauna and doing Epsom soaks and all of these things. Those are all going to be like, you know, and then if you work up to, you know, massages can be a really nice thing to do consistently. And so becoming an expert in recovery is just as important as anyone can work out hard and smash their body to pieces. It's being able to sustain your level of function and fitness long term. That's, I think, what everyone's really going for.
Yeah. Right.
So most of the time,
Yes.
for mostly everyone. But
And you don't have to take, you've just listed a lot of things, and very many people are like, that is so much time. I don't have time to do any of that
it's a
stuff.
layering process.
It's a layering process. I don't want people to get scared and think you have to do everything. Jeremy's a little extreme like that, and it matters to him. So it matters to you a lot. That's why you've put in all of these layers, which I think is wonderful for you. But you don't have to start there. People, you can just start with walking. You can just start with, like, once in a while do an Epsom salt bath, or get one of those lacrosse balls and roll it under your feet while you're cooking or something. You know what I mean? Like standing there stirring the pot, just like roll your ball on your foot. It does not have to take 4 hours a day to do any of this stuff. You can do 10-minute chunks. You don't have to do anything excessive as long as you're doing something. Keep that momentum moving forward. If you say you take 10 minutes a day and you walk just for 10 minutes and you do that for a year or even a month, then the next month you do 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you build yourself up, and it becomes your normal. It becomes your new pattern, your habit, and it makes it much easier to take the next step forward.
Right.
That's what I'm all about with my clients, is like, how do we take the steps forward to get you where you want to go? You don't have to be there tomorrow. We're going to take it at your pace, so it's easy and comfortable and kind of fun at the same time too.
Yeah, a nice gradual on-ramping process.
Gradual on-ramping process, yeah.
So, I feel like I'm on the extreme end, and then you're always saying, like, all right, you can always take it slow. I'm like, if you go crazy, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
So,
But some people need that. That's okay. A lot of people, that's too much to think about. If you told me like a year ago, here, you have to do all these things, I'd be like, screw that. I can't. That's too much for me to even comprehend.
Yeah.
But you just start and layer as you go.
and I didn't start with all the things that I know
Yeah.
now, so it's been a very gradual process of, you know, trial and error and all of that.
You've got a lot of folds in your steel right now. A lot of people don't have any. That's okay. We'll start from the beginning and keep walking.
Well, everyone has folds in the steel. It's just like a lot of it's like donuts and cake and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Not strong folds.
no. So, all right, sweet. I think we nailed it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. That is the end of episode 3 from The Painter and the Pixie. We hope that you enjoyed. We had a lot of fun recording for you. Just as a reminder, you can always find our shows on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and on YouTube. For show notes, you can go to our website at thepainterandthepixie.com. And for updates and some fun stuff throughout the week, like our lovely kale eating Lagoto, you can go and follow us on Instagram at The Painter and the Pixie, all spelled out. Yeah, we had a great time this show. I think it was so much fun.
It was good stuff. You know, I wish I didn't know all the things that I know about injuries, but, you know, hopefully it helps somebody else avoid or take care of some.
Yep.
And I think the main point, too, that I want to just reemphasize is that you can handle a lot of things yourself.
Yeah.
As far as your recovery, there's quite a bit you can do yourself. And then obviously, you know, you can't do your own ACL surgery unless you're extremely talented. But I would just say, you know, this is you know, on the more conservative side of injury treatment and whatnot.
Right.
So
take some steps, do some stuff at home.
Yeah.
Drink some water.
Yeah.
Work towards half your body weight in ounces every day. Little by little, you'll get there, and it'll be no problem eventually.
So it's all good. Start slow, guys.
Start slow.
Yeah. Don't do what I
Start
do
the layering
almost all the
process.
time.
Yeah,
So,
don't be extreme like Jeremy, but have a good week.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Y'all have a good one. Thank you very much for listening. We very much appreciate it. And subscribe on your respective platforms. That would also be lovely. And we will talk to you next week. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Amazing.